Buenas tardes. ¿Me das aquí al micro? Ahora. Bueno, seguimos con...
Well, now is the turn of Inés Huertas. I've got a feeling with my two interviewees. So her name is Inés Huerta, but her Twitter account, her Twitter name is Quiero Data, I Want Data. And I can read here that you like gossiping in Twitter. Yes, I like technology. I love technology. But at the same time, I like gossiping and knitting and that kind of thing. So I like, to know things about the celebrities and things like that. But everything is factoring. Well, I know Ines since 4 years and a half. She created a company called Hadaton, but that's ancient history. So you've now created, you're now in a different stage of life. When you're an entrepreneur, you do this kind of things. When we started this company, my target or my objective was to work from home in my pajamas, and I did it just for 2 weeks, no more. And I had the idea of the projects I wanted to pursue and the people I wanted to work with, but it changed. So after 5 years, I decided to do something different, and that's why it changed. So what is that you were interested for? Well, I studied computer science systems. So I had the chance to try to start managing HTTP intensive calculation systems, and then I jumped to the world of big data. And it was quite competitive because compared with other solutions that were being marketed, it was very interesting because other solutions were proprietary solutions. I studied neural networks, so I started to study more about it because everything was changing very fast. Now I define myself as a data scientist, and there are many data scientists. But back then, when someone told me, "You're going to be a data scientist," I said, "You're just joking. That doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a data scientist." But yes, it is a reality now. So I started to study in an independent way by using massive online courses and by testing things. I live in the south of Madrid, and I used to go to work to the north of Madrid. So every morning I grabbed my backpack and went to work because everything was in my backpack because I knew when I was starting to work, but I never knew how or when I would stop. So instead of just getting into the rat race, into the commuting every day, and the traffic jams, someone invited me to stay over and doing data analysis, so I started to do that. I decided it was better than facing the traffic jam every day. So I joined that startup, and the services we offered were data backups and that kind of things, and a little bit of the big data. But well, we had the chance to land a new client, a big client who wanted big data. We started with 3 people, and I quit in May, and it was 15 people. We never got any funding, so it was always organic growth. And it is great because if you get funding rounds, if you get investment, it looks like you're doing a great business, but instead I think you're doing an artificial business. It is best if you can have organic growth, because sometimes you're involved in big operations and there's nothing organic there. It's artificially generated. So you get a degree. You have a degree in telecommunications in the Carlos III University. What else did you do before enrolling in this? Because I got involved in this. I used to work for the university in the Red Iris network. It is a network that connects all Spanish universities in Spain, and Carlos III is Radio Madrid is responsible for the management of that network. I also used to work for the telematics department at the Carlos III University. I was an event promoter. I was lifesaver in swimming pools. So your first job was... I used to be a safeguard.
Entonces era bastante curioso. Lo que pasa es que al final dedicabas mogollón de tiempo y no veías a tus amigos, ¿no? Porque estabas todo...
I was lifeguard for 3 months, and it was great because it left me enough time, plenty of time to see my friends. And then I changed and I became an event promoter. And I want to talk positively about the event promoters because it's life full of suffering. Well, that kind of things. But then I said to myself, well, Ines, maybe you should find a job that is related to what you have studied. So that's how I decided to start working at the universities. And what about R Ladies Madrid or A Ladies Madrid? Well, Ladies is a programming language. And I used to know the labs and communities in Madrid, and there were not many people. There were not many female programmers. And I once met R is a programming language. And then I met one of the other fellow programming lady, and she told me, well, there is network, there is an international network that is called All Ladies, and with people, women that program. And I said, yeah, but there's nothing like that in Spain. And she said, well, we're just going to create it ourselves because there are more female programmers. And that's how we realized there was a problem. I don't know what the problem is born or where does it come from. I can maybe think why, but there's something we need to do about it. And that's how I told this other lady, I want to take part in this. I want to get involved in this initiative. I want to develop the number of ladies that do programming. So we created it 3 years ago. It's like when you celebrate your anniversary with your partner, because I'm really enthusiastic about it. So we organized one meetup per month. One of the ladies in the group organized an introduction to the R language. But there were many people coming to these talks, to these meetups, so the atmosphere was great. So at a certain point, someone said, well, this is maybe not enough. It's okay for you to come here and say what you're talking, what you're working on, and talk about what you're doing, but I want to become a data scientist, and we're using test data here, but we're not using real-life data. So let's organize a hackathon. And when, well, we decided to organize a hackathon, that was something big, and we got carried away. We were looking for sponsors and the catering. It was crazy. It was crazy, and we could never imagine what was going up. But anyway, we did it. We created a hackathon, and 50% of the participants were women. And we created several groups, and 50% participants being ladies. So it really created a momentum, and many male researchers and programmers were interested in participating in it. But since we needed 50% female programmers, they started to talk their female fellow programmers into it so that they could make sure that they could get a place. So the people who took part in the hackathon was the projects in the hackathon used real data. And then people then could put it in their CV, in their resume, and then say, hey, I have taken part in a project using real data, so this counts as a real work experience. So I wanted to talk about something that is really nice. Why are you keen on using communities? Because many people were saying to me, you're working for free. Yes, I'm doing it for free. I'm doing it pro bono, but I'm having great fun. I'm enjoying myself. In one of those hackathons, we invited Intermon Oxfam, and we used a set of data. So we also used the hackathon to invite one of the ladies working in Intermon Oxfam to talk about the organization. And we also invited other people. So the first person to talk about the personal experience was myself. And I talked about an experience that I had done, a test. I put a camera on at the Callao Square in Madrid, recording nonstop. And then we collected all the rows, all the recordings, and then I got my collaborators to tag the images. And then I created an algorithm that detected the number of people in the street with a high likelihood of accuracy. So we discovered that when there were many people, there were many buses, but when there were fewer people, there were still many buses. So we put that into a paper, and we talked about smart cities and how to regulate and how to organize the use of the resources. And then someone proposed to use satellite imaging to do the same thing. And I said, okay, that's fantastic. The police called me and said, well, there is a terrorist that goes, well, he lives in Africa, and then he goes to a hamlet and destroys a hamlet, and then everything is ravaged because people in the hamlet is very poor, so they flee as soon as they see the terrorist. But of course, it's the desert, and of course, when they reach a point in the desert that they think is okay, stable, they stop. But they stop in the middle of nowhere, middle of the desert, and we cannot find them. The NGOs there cannot find them because they are lost in the middle of the desert. So maybe we can use a tool to detect if people are settling up in a new, if they are creating a new settlement in the middle of the desert because they have run away from a hamlet that has been ravaged. So I said, okay, that's great. and we started to collect images of the desert, different places in Africa, and we started to update it. And we were looking for up-to-date images, but I couldn't find them. So then in the Our Ladies account in Twitter is very active, and we got the support of the NASA in Twitter. They retweeted all the tweets that we published, that we posted, and well, especially someone from one of the NASA workers, and I was aware of that. So I thought, well, he works for NASA. The NASA might have the images I need. So I wrote to him a direct message. And I thought to myself, maybe he would think that I'm a stalker. But he replied to me instead. So I started to talk about the project. And I said, we need up-to-date images, satellite images in Africa. How could I get them? And he said, we have an open data with many data, and you can get access to our pool of images. So I started to look at the API. It was sad because it was great for Europe and the United States, high-resolution images, but not for Africa. The resolution is not great. So it's very difficult to identify anything. So we had to stop the project. But 1.5 months later, NASA called me again to talk about a project with 50 people to use data. And they asked me if I wanted to take part in it. And I thought, but of course I want to take part in a project by NASA. I want to apply for it. And then I received a message by NASA saying, I've been shortlisted, but please don't say anything. Keep it secret. Oh my God, how can I keep it secret? But they insisted, don't say anything, keep it secret, because we want to do a public announcement, public joint announcement. So I kept it secret. I kept it a secret, and even if people asked me, I was quiet and silent. So I went to Washington. I stayed a few years with people, data scientists, astronauts working for NASA. We got an overview by people qualified in biology, not people qualified in data, because they specialize in biology, in landslides, and that kind of things that really interest them. And so they needed data experts. They do this every 6 months. So if you feel like taking part in it, just ask me later, because you might go there. So once you get there, once you get shortlisted, once you are approved, you have access to those data sets all the time, forever. So you work for NASA. Well, according to my father, I am already an astronaut. Well, look at the level of the people we have here today. People who have received awards from the King of Spain, people who work for NASA, people who work with astronauts. Any piece of advice for people who really want to follow your lead? Well, I'm very passionate about things, and that's what I like to do. When you feel you want to do something just because you want to, when you're young, there's a lot of passion. I see this a lot when I go to high schools. You see that girls are very self-exigent, are very self-conscious. They are afraid to fail. But what can you know about life when you're 16? You don't know what you can expect from life. Even if you're 19, I would say to any person aged 19. Take it easy, take your time, find something that you're really passionate about. But I almost forgot to mention that you have a project that is now on wheels. Well, when I quit my last company, I decided not to ever start a company again. But, well, 3 months into it, I have changed my mind again, especially because I'm really interested in making things work for people. So I met a guy that has patented a wheeling system that can move sideways and in many different directions. And it's like when you want to park sideways. And we want to apply that wheeling system to a wheelchair so that people can really become more independent and move around. We're trying to make it a reality and get it to hospitals. What would you do if you got 1 million euros? Would you spend it in one of your projects, in maybe another project you can think of? Well, I'm a data dreamer. If you give me 1 million euros, God knows what I can do. But probably something about biomedicine. And maybe projects for the elderly, because we do have a lot of technology, and we need to apply that technology in this country, a country where people are aging fast. We have many aging people, we have many elderly people. We have a panic button, and that's a great breakthrough. But maybe we could create, I don't know, maybe a tool, a device that can talk to people and interact with the elderly and ask them, have you taken your pills yet? One of your role models, one of the women you admire, Queen Elizabeth, the Catholic. Why? Because she was an entrepreneur. She sent Christopher Columbus to find America and India. And she was one of the first women to really stand up to her husband. And she was a really good strategist and did many, many things, many enterprises. Any mentor you remember? Yes, when I started university, I was a dummy. I was a programming dummy. I didn't know anything about technology or programming. I didn't know anything about what I was getting into. But the telematic department of the Carlos III University is great, so I became a pro. And there I met my first boss, Gregorio. And every time I have a problem, I think to myself, what would Gregorio do? When I created my company, I tried to hire him. I told him, I need you. I need people like you. We've worked together. And he said to me, I'm going to say no to you because you're hiring so many people from your own environment that as soon as you have a problem, as soon as you encounter a problem, you won't have anybody to talk about it. So he was giving me a piece of advice even when saying no to me. Which one of your achievements you feel most proud of? Hiring my father. My father was unemployed, a long-standing unemployed, so I felt proud to give him a job.
¿Alguna pregunta?
Any questions from the audience? That was Jorge. questions for Ines. Easy questions, please. Hi, Ines. I loved your talk. I am gossipy too, so I like you. Well, I wanted to ask you the project with the terrorist and the NASA. So what happened? The images that you got from the NASA were not useful to you. So the images of Africa were not good, and they're not working on trying to improve the images. Well, I have never talked to NASA on behalf of Intermon Oxfam. So I cannot ask them to improve the pictures they get, because I am just a mediator. I'm just a third party. We also tried to do a similar project with refugees. And so we didn't get any pictures from satellites, and we tried to get them elsewhere, but we were afraid that we might get a call from the police or someone else at home. NASA are interested in trying to fine-tune the pictures they get from specific areas in the world, in the planet, in order to prevent, to foresee landslides or hurricanes and things like that. I'd like to finish the project for the terrorists someday, but I don't know.
Igual se me acopla, es que no lo sé. Jorge, que me ha pasado aquí el doble trabajo de azafato.
Inés, simplemente comentarte el tema.
The voice recognition systems that you want to do in order to develop devices to talk to the elderly. I have been testing it with my grandmother. I have tried to reprogram Alexa so that it can talk to my grandma. I'm also trying to reprogram the telephone, the line, so that they can both interact with my grandma and recognize their voice. So when I get my 1 million euros, I want you to work with me. The power of data to change the world is something that I feel proud of. Because in the end, the power does not lie in the hands of the people who know about technology. I'm going to explain you why. Leticia is one of the coordinators of the Ladies Madrid network. She's a computation linguist, and she was studying for a public exam because she wanted to work for the government. So she joined us, and we taught them how to program in R. And, well, she then gave a talk about the emotional language in Friends, the soap opera. And there was another lady working with us specializing in natural language programming, who talked about Leticia with her boss. That was 3 years ago, and now Leticia has joined Google. So the power lies not in the hands of people who do technology. The power lies in people who are knowledgeable about a special area. There's another friend of mine who is a lawyer that has created a program, an application, a software that analyzes the official gazette of the Spanish government and analyzes it and gets the data from it, the official journal of the Spanish government, and then extracts all the information from it and uses it for practical purposes. last question. What would you like to do now, next, in the next 6 months or the next year? Well, I'd like to have 4 lives because I've always wanted to be part of a rock band. Well, but to be honest, I'd like to do something about biomedical applications. There's a whole world outside. We need legal standards, and there are many things we can do in order to, in the field of biomedicine, and that can really save lives and improve our lives. Thank you.